Shalom, students, and welcome to Tragedy and Hope in the Book of Jeremiah. In this course, we're going to encounter a figure from the Hebrew Bible who probably has had more influence on the development of Western religion than any other figure, except perhaps Moses. And perhaps what is most startling is that this character, Jeremiah, was a total iconoclast. He spoke out against all of the instruments of the nation, the kingdom of Judah. The king, the royal officials, the priests, the prophets. He encouraged these elites to accept the inevitable and to submit to the enemy, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. His pronouncements were considered so subversive, indeed treasonous, that he was arrested and imprisoned on at least one occasion. Today, quite frankly, he might be considered a bit deranged. Without meaning any disrespect, we might see Jeremiah as one of those somewhat unruly street preachers that we frequently encounter. Living near Washington, D.C., I often see people like that preaching at the north gate of the White House. Jeremiah seems to have preferred the entrance to the temple in Jerusalem as his site of his preaching. Yet, what on the one hand may seem somewhat deranged, on the other hand provides this street preacher with a sensitivity, an empathy, and an insight into the true state of the world, the true state of his people, his nation, and its institutions, and the true nature of the divine-human connection, the covenant relationship between God and the people of Israel. Jeremiah's ability to perceive and explain the complex world in which he lived and preached, a world filled with great power war and intrigue, a nation under siege but also threatened with all sorts of internal divisions. This allowed him ultimately to provide his people, the people of Judah, the Jewish people, with a worldview and a theology that allowed it to survive utter destruction and exile. It was a vision of tragedy, but also a vision of hope. Ironically, a hope deeply embedded within the tragedy. Tragedy and hope are wedded in the words of this slightly deranged street preacher. But I want you to understand that we're going to be looking at the book of Jeremiah through a critical lens, using the tools of the social sciences, history, archaeology, literary criticism, to reach behind the text and to explore its development. Jeremiah did not sit down and write a book, and while we are told that his companion Baruch did write down some of his words, he surely did not write down what we now have as the book of Jeremiah. So we'll see that the genius of this book begins with the prophet himself, but it is also the product of editors and redactors who had the advantage of hindsight to hone Jeremiah's vision and to give it its timeless relevance.